suffered 10 years of infertility, 4 miscarriages. Then her oldest of 2 living children was diagnosed with autoimmunity at age of 9. Something had to change. A functional, holistic approach was answer for her. Welcome to my show, Salena.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Pantea.
I can't wait to hear your story. I know that's gonna inspire a lot of people.
Yes. I'm excited.
All right, can you tell me about yourself? How did you start your fertility journey, and what happened? You had your child after 10 years. What did you do?
Yeah. So like you said, I'm a mom, and we suffered with 10 years of infertility. We had 4 miscarriages in that process. And then eventually in 2005, we welcomed our oldest son, Spencer, into the world and thought everything was going to be great. It was actually a full-term pregnancy, which was really surprising because obviously the 4 miscarriages before. And then our second child was born about 2 years later, not quite 2 years later. He, though, has arthrogryposis, and that was something that developed in utero. And then in 2014, our oldest son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, which is the autoimmune kind of lifelong challenge with diabetes.
All right. All right. So what was your, what did you do differently to have your child?
Yeah. So what had happened was when we had the 4th miscarriage, we were living in the Midwest, and my husband is from New England, and he really yearned to be back home. Like, he's from the East Coast. That's where he grew up. And so we kept moving back there, about an hour from where he kind of grew up. And within a year, we actually got pregnant on our own. So we had gone through a lot of infertility treatments prior to that. And once we got there, we were getting actually ready to do another set of infertility treatments. And just before we started that, the doctor's like, well, we got to do a pregnancy test, just for to cross our T's, dot our I's. And surprisingly, we were pregnant, and we were like, what happened? Because we weren't trying. We were just gearing up for a whole nother series of, all this infertility stuff. And so it was interesting because I guess the only thing we did differently was we were not stressing. And looking back now, I can see the huge importance of stress when it comes to our fertility and our hormones. But at the time, functional medicine wasn't even anywhere on my radar. Sort of natural medicine and kind of a holistic approach. I was pretty blurred as to what holistic really, really meant. But we just weren't stressed. My husband was very happy living back home. We were able to go to the ocean quite frequently and spend a lot of time outdoors. The stress levels were very, very different out there. And that was the biggest change, was we no longer had the burden of everyday life and, trying to have a child and jobs and everything. And so that was, I think, the biggest turning point, and what allowed our bodies, or my bodies, and I think my husband's too, to get out of that fight or flight mode and get to a state where, yes, you can reproduce and have a child.
That's one of the reasons I always talk to my clients, and I always tell them that you have to live it. You have to surrender, because that's what we did too. Like, we gave up fertility treatments after 2 rounds of IVF, 2 rounds of IUI, and then so many miscarriages in between. And, and then, okay, I'm going to correct this. 2 miscarriages there. And then we said, okay, that's enough. We're going to be relaxed. Whatever happens. So at that moment, then it happened. After 2 months of giving up, I just went to acupuncture to do some adjustment, because after IVF and all of those drugs, your body is not happy.
No.
So so I said, let's just be happy. I just want to be happy and just get rid of these hormones. And then restart my life again. Doesn't matter if we have a kid or not. And then it happened. So that's so interesting. But you finally find functional medicine. As for your child, you apply to him, and he actually get rid of autoimmunity disease, and that was great. Because of that problem and solution that you find, if you go back, how do you do differently?
Well, first, we did not get rid of the autoimmunity. We've gotten rid of all of his other things, but we do still have the type 1 diabetes. He was able to go on a huge long honeymoon, but his health completely transformed. And if I could change, I mean, if I knew now or then what I know now, so many things would be differently. Stress would definitely be one of the top things, is that I would have not been so much into, and some of these things were good things, but like we did soccer, we did all these different activities. It was constantly go, go, go. And while they were good things, I mean, you think having fun playing with your kids and doing these different, events, and it was too much. Like, I don't believe that we were designed to constantly be going one thing after another after another. And when I look back and see, like with him, how his health, what all happened, and where he had flares of his other symptoms, it was always surrounding lots of activities. We were constantly going from one thing to another and not really rest in between, or it was quick rest. And while we ate relatively kind of decent foods, or we did a lot of homemade foods, it's not enough to overcome if your body is still running. Like, if we have our vehicles and we go, 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 and if I would have not turned it off overnight when we were inside and running, the engine would have overheated. But that's what we were doing to our bodies. And if I had recognized, I know that now, and I would have changed so much of that and spent more time just stopping and smelling the roses, much more self-care. I tend to do a lot for other people and not necessarily so much for myself. And I really noticed that whenever, like when his diabetes, his blood sugar numbers are very much affected. When I am stressed, his glucose will be crazy high. And we don't have to be in the same rooms. I don't even almost have to even be home. His body like senses whenever I am stressed. And that connection is just fascinating to me as to how much that energy goes beyond the physical, things that we see, or the mental stresses. There's just this energy that between people, and especially between mother and child. And I think so much that is because that's what he developed in those 9 months, was in this environment where I was under an intense amount of stress because I was so worried about losing yet another child. Like this one, came naturally, and it was just, I was paralyzed pretty much the entire pregnancy, worrying about, are we actually going to succeed? And then that has translated into his health. He just has that stress kind of at his core, and he's very, very sensitive to that. So I would change a lot of things surrounding stress, and not looking quite so much at our like definitions that we have of, oh, well, if you're not, if there's not bad stress, then it's okay. But a lot of good stresses can still be very overwhelming.
I love this. I love this topic that you said. Your stress and your blood pressure really affect him, right? Because that's what happened. Nobody knows. Like, you are living in same roof, and all the emotion gonna affect you. So whatever you have in your family is gonna affect someone else. So that's why we have a lot of family disease, because those disease is common in everybody. And not only the type of the food we have, but only the kind of stress and the environment can actually affect our health as well. So tell me about your own system right now. What do you do? I saw your website. It's amazing, because what I like about the assessment in the beginning, so you can have your assessment of health, where you are from 10 out of 10. So then you can actually find some problem in your body. What is it? How I can resolve it? So what else do you do? Like, that's the first step you give your patient, and what else do you do?
Yeah. So basically, what I do is I kind of start with is just general assessments. Let's kind of get the groundwork of where you're at the symptom-wise. But then we take it to a completely different level of looking at a complete holistic approach of what else is there besides those check engine lights? Like, what kind of environment are you living in when it comes to emotional health, to relationships, to other stressors, to the kinds of foods we're eating, and then the history, like what happened farther back in, your life during while your mother was carrying you. What can we do to look at creating a strategy? Because it's more about, we got those symptoms, we've got those check engine lights. What do we do about it? So helping people to put all those pieces into context and understanding that we can all have the exact same symptoms, but because we are experiencing different things in our life, what those symptoms mean or how our body is responding to that can be very different. I help people to understand and teach them, these are the things that you do. And we start creating a plan of, do we need to do lab work? Sometimes we need to get more information to see what's going on underneath how is the body actually utilizing the foods that we are eating or the supplements we are taking? Are we taking too much? I do a lot of education on, we tend to kind of overdo things here in the US. Like, we just think more is better. And that translates into a lot of supplements, extra exercise, and everything. We just, so helping to look at that big picture. And then we will also a lot of times go into the genetics. Like, the genetics was another huge key turning point for me. When my son was diagnosed with the diabetes, they flew an airplane down to come get us. We're in East Texas, and flew him and I to Dallas Children's. And during that time that's what kind of got me on the journey to functional medicine. And then after I got into functional medicine and started realizing, oh my goodness, these are some of those answers that I've been asking since I was trying to get pregnant, was wrong. And then the genetic side of it was that next big turning point inside of that functional medicine journey of realizing we have power to not necessarily change our genes, but to influence our genes and our hair color or our ancestors, but these metabolic genes that we can actually influence how those work. Those are the building blocks. So just like a child can put those same Legos together and make different buildings, we can affect how our genes inside us work. And so I help teach people to find the clues of genes that may be challenging or may have like a 1-lane highway versus a 4-lane highway. What can we do to make sure that 1-lane highway is not getting stopped back and clogged up, leading to whatever symptoms are? And so I kind of put all those things into context.
Yes. So do you have any recommendation for the couples who are struggling for fertility right now? What do you tell them?
Yes, the first thing is the stress, and it's looking at stress differently than what we are taught. But I think like what you did and kind of what we did without even knowing it was not making, trying to have a child your first priority and your first focus, because we have to be taking a step back and enjoying life. Like, we have to be in that peaceful, regenerative state, because that's what makes our hormones work well. That's what makes the eggs to develop amazing, and for the sperm and for all of those things to work in harmony. So just, enjoying one another and, embracing the great gift of the two of you being together. And once we take that, it's amazing the miracles that can happen.
Beautiful. So you have your website with you. Can you talk about your website? Because this one go to podcast. Some people only listen to it.
Sure. Yeah. So on my site, on the homepage, I do, like you had mentioned, I have several different assessments. So to start your journey, there's a lot of free assessments that you just, fill out the little surveys, and you can get your scores right then how did you score? There's one like your general health, there's candida, there's also some information on genetics. And then I have a resources page, and I try to reference my resources page everywhere, because my resources page has, like, if you like to geek out, like I really am into science and biochemistry and all those things. So I put up my favorite books or my favorite courses favorite charts, those kinds of things on my resources page. So you can go there. Most of those are free. Sometimes they are courses that you would have to enroll in, but I try to find things that you can get without, spending thousands of dollars, because I know what it's like to spend a lot of money on infertility. I mean, it's a lot. And or any other health struggle that you may be struggling with. And so I try to find ones that are actually going to give you good information that's solid, that you can, have action steps with. And then there's also different sections that I have, like for women's health or for genomics or for gut health. I try to keep it somewhat limited, just because there's so many things that we could be going on, that when you narrow it down to, these key areas, you can find the information easily as to, you've maybe these other things, but I've not necessarily explored genomics. So there's a nice genomics page.
So her website is www.functionalperspective.com. If you like to do the assessment, I love this because I've done it myself. So go ahead and you'll see, you may find some surprising factors there, surprising score, and those areas you need to work on. Because what we do in functional medicine is just finding healing opportunities. We don't do any diagnosis, but because underlying issues are more important than diagnosis, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. The diagnosis is at the wrong end of the equation. So that's, this name of symptoms, but it's not really talking about what and really why, what is going on underneath the surface. Diagnosis, I think we've completely, that's like the wrong end of this, we're at the complete wrong end of the scale there, to where we should be looking for answers and for our health.
All right. Do you have any other words, any other hopeful sentence can give us some inspiration?
I think that it comes back to the same thing, is, stopping and smelling the roses and getting back to the simple things in life, laughter, finding what really brings you that laughter that makes your stomach hurt, that you just laugh so hard. Because when you do that, your body cannot be in the stressful state. And so finding those things, embracing those things, those are like the core of everything that I do. And everyone I talk with, laughter is like my non-negotiable. Like, if you have to have chocolate, or if you have to, eat whatever food, it's fine. We're going to be laughing. So laughter is so important, and to find opportunities at every corner to just have that, enjoy life.
Salena, thank you so much for all the hopeful messages you give us. And I just want to add something. It's not the end of the road. Even if you are diagnosed with unexplained infertility and you are struggling with this for more than 10 years, which Salena did, and there are many other alternative situations that you have to go for it, find your healing opportunities, and you can still have your baby. I mean, in many cases, we were the evidence that that's going to happen.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for being here. Hopefully we can see you later. And I'm going to add something else here. Salena is going to be the co-author of my new book, Naturally Healed. We're going to talk about chronic disease, and she has done amazing job in the book, and we can't wait to read it again. Thank you so much, Salena.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please subscribe to panteakalhor Transition channel and order my book Naturally Conceived through Amazon. Thank you for watching.